Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.
Good evening. Welcome to an edition of A Fan's View Sports Talk podcast. I'm your host, Jay Ivy, bringing you the best in the world of sports. Got a special guest with me this evening, my boy Daryl Israel, straight out of Charlotte, North Carolina. What's up, Daryl?
Hey, how's it going, man? You doing all right?
Good. And we're gonna kick it off. We're gonna get into some Charlotte sports. There's a lot to talk about in the Charlotte sports scene. And we'll start with your Panthers.
Man, I I love the fact that they swept the Falcons. Anytime we can get that in, I'm good. So I'll be honest, I didn't see them being 6-5 at this part of the season. They are grinding out some wins here. I like that they're starting to build a culture. The excitement is building within the locker room. They're starting to believe. I feel like this is almost the if you remember Detroit when they first got their coach the second year before they really took off, when he was
Mhm.
just frustrated, almost crying because it was like, we're fighting so hard. We just got to win these games. And I feel like after that, something just turned. I feel like we're at that pivotal point where things are turning. Now we got some heavy games coming up, especially this Monday night. That's really going to
Right.
be a test. I know Bryce, he did excellent, set the record for passing yards, but it still makes me nervous, the first three quarters. It's something about the fourth quarter where he locks in and really shows out. Those first three quarters still makes me nervous on him. But if we can get more consistency and hopefully that injury doesn't hamper him, because that defensive line for San Francisco is going to come after him. And if he can survive that and keep it close, and somehow if we pull off a victory there, I think Charlotte's going to have a buzz.
Yeah, I mean, to be 6-5 at this point in the season, half game out of first place. If I would have told you that at the beginning of the year, at this point in the season, going to the second half of the season, you would have taken it. Most Panthers fans would have been ecstatic. I thought they would be improved this year, but I think they've kind of even exceeded my expectations at this point, especially with some of the losses you saw early in the year. A couple of weeks ago when they lost to the Saints, we talked about that at home. And then you turn around, go to on the road again in Atlanta, which is not an easy environment. And
No.
they were desperate. That was a team that, they needed that win. Coming off a disappointing loss the week before against against Miami. So that was an easy game. It went into overtime. It looked like they was gonna let it slip away, but they found a way, and I like the composure. Bryce Young. Everything doesn't always go well. It's not pretty, but he doesn't panic. And then in clutch
Right.
situations, we've seen him come through and come up with some big plays. And then, like you said, the defense stepped up big time. That Atlanta offense is pretty good. They got,
Yeah.
I think, number one pass offense going into that game. So for the defense, step up like that on the road, that's very encouraging.
Yeah, the defense has been a bright spot. Are we top of the league? No. But are we competent enough to be more on the upper echelon in that middle section? Yes, which gives us a chance. If you look at the past few years, we were flat near the bottom. And so our offense had no chance in times when the offense looked good, but the defense was giving up major points. So the defense is giving us a chance for the offense to figure things out. And I think you hit it right on. Also, I look at it as we got a better record than Kansas City. And so I would definitely take that, all day. And T-Mac, I didn't think he was going to be ready to step into potentially a number one receiver role. But the more I've been watching him, he has the potential. He's not there, but I think he has the potential to really morph into a number one receiver role, which we haven't had a true number one receiver that, no matter what can go get it in a while. The closest we've had was Steve Smith. And really, I don't think he was just I go get the ball. but I still really wouldn't categorize him as a true number one receiver. But T Mac is forming into that. And so he's been a pleasant surprise. I wasn't sure how that was going to pan out. It's good to see some of the Panthers draft picks contributing immediately this year and at a high level.
Yeah, and I think with the offense, it's starting to come together, but you like to see more consistency. I mean, they look
Yeah.
good one week, and then they fall flat against a team like the Saints. I like to see Xavier Legette step up to be that number two. They need another piece to go with T Mac. They got the running game with Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard, and I like Trimble. Now he had a good game too, the tight end, but you need another piece. I like to see them get a deep threat in the offseason, stretch the field, continue to build more depth along that offensive line. But it's starting to come together. I like the play calling with Canellis. A
Yes.
lot of people question him, but I think he's the right guy for the job. Stick with
Yes.
him, let him continue to build. I mean, look what he did in Tampa with Baker Mayfield. So I'm starting to see some of that. So continue to build around Bryce, get some more playmakers. The defense is coming along. I only see them getting better. They have some pieces on the defense. You may add a couple more guys here and there, another secondary guy, maybe another edge rusher. But I like what I'm seeing from the defense. They're keeping them in games, and that's all you can ask for.
Yep. I just hope to keep the edge. If they keep the edge, almost like, hey, it's us against the world, I think that's when they perform the best. And so at the point that if they start, because the media is starting to pay them more attention, like, yep, they're in the playoff hunt. If the playoffs were to start, they're just one or two positions outside of a playoff position. I'm like, all right, let's not start, feeling ourselves too much. Let's keep that grind of it's us against the world. And, hopefully some teams will still try to look past this. And then by the time they figure out, no, we are a solid team, then we can maybe potentially be in a solid playoff position. I love the fact that we still got two games against Tampa Bay, with us knocking on the door right there. If we're able to compete with Tampa Bay and get one, if not both of those games, we're locked in because I think that's going to be our best chance to get into the playoffs is going to be to win the division. It's going to be very hard with some of these other teams, especially the way the NFC North is playing out with all those teams to get an at-large bid. I think winning the division is going to be the best shot.
Yeah, and I said going to the season 8 wins. I think you're headed in the right direction around that 8 or 9 wins. Now you're at six with 6 games left. 8 wins is very attainable. Now you're looking at maybe 9 or 10. And I think those 2 games against Tampa Bay, I think those could decide the division. You probably got to
Correct.
split at least one of those games. I mean, you sweep them, that would be nice, but you probably got to split to have a legitimate chance of winning the division. And they got some other games coming up too,
Right.
that aren't easy, but I think those 2 games against Tampa that could decide the division later or late in the season.
I agree. I agree. And I think, like I said, the ankle injury, can Bryce hold up with that, especially as the season goes on? Because some of the, Tampa Bay's defensive line, they go after you. They're tough. This San Francisco defensive line about to go up against is going to be very tough. Will the offensive line continue to give him just enough time, to be able to make those plays? But I can't help but think, can you imagine if Adam Thielen had
Mhm.
stayed instead of wanting to get
Yes.
traded? It's like that was a very
He would be
dependable
a
receiver.
great third down weapon.
Exactly. To have that with T Mac and the way Coker is coming in off the injury and starting to slowly, and then hopefully Horn really develops into that potential scat receiver, the deep threat. If we, oh man, I see it, but I understand, right? He was ready to go home, and we were developing, but he was an excellent piece that would have easily continued the contribution this year.
Yes, absolutely. And looking ahead to the Monday night game, that's a big game. Monday night on the road against San Francisco. Tough team. They've had a lot of injuries, but they're still, playing for that division as well for the NFC West. It's a big game for them as well. Christian McCaffrey, will this be the revenge game? Who knows? Will he go off? Hopefully not.
Right.
hopefully that defense will be up to par, be ready for them. But I think this will be a true test for them against a good team, a playoff caliber team on the road, Monday night, big lights, bright lights. We'll find out a lot about this team, win or lose. I know if they can keep it close, competitive, I think you can come out of that game feeling good. You just don't want to see them lay an egg and just get, completely blown out. But I think this is a good test for them. And I think they have a chance. I mean, I know 49ers are going to be favored, and they should be. But I think this
Yeah,
will be a good test to see, a good litmus test to see where the Panthers stack up against a real playoff caliber team.
I agree. The big question is going to be, can we keep McCaffrey under 150 yards? And that's total yards. That's going to be rushing and passing. Because if he starts narrowing and having a huge game, it's going to open up everything else. Kittle, the other receivers. If our defense, and I'm confident in our secondary, to where they'll make plays and keep it interesting. I think none of the receivers really strike fear, even though they can make some big plays. They don't strike fear. McCaffrey's the engine. If we can slow down the engine, it gives us a shot to win the game.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So, I think, that they'll cover. I forget what the point spread is. I know San Francisco's the home team, but again, I think this is a good test for them. You know, it's hard to pick because if they're on the road. 49ers, they're a good team. They're tough at home. But I give the Panthers a legit shot to win this game. Nobody thought they would go to Green Bay and beat Green Bay. And they were talking about Green Bay as a possible Super Bowl contender leading up to that game. So I think this is definitely a game they can win. But you're going to have to protect the football. If you're Bryce, can't turn the ball over. 49ers have a good defense. They can get hot offensively. Brock Purdy is back. So you can't you have your Bryce, you got to protect the football. Can't, if it's not there, throw it away, take a sack. Your defense hopefully can keep you in the game, but you got to protect the football.
Yeah, and for the defense, that run game for San Francisco is formidable. They game in, game out. They're going to run the ball. They're very successful at doing it. It's coming, and they still do it very well. So how do we stack up to that? It was going to be a real test for our defensive line. I love our interior defensive line. They do excellent in stopping the run. This is going to be a true test because when those slant blocks start coming in, how are we able to handle that?
All right. And anybody out there watching this podcast and want to watch future podcasts of A Fan's View, click on the link below to subscribe. Let's shift gears going into the Hornets. It's basketball. Not as exciting to talk about right now as the Panthers. 4-11. I think they sit 12th in the Eastern Conference right now. Not a big surprise there. We knew they're going to have some growing pains going into the season. I do see promise. I think this team is headed in the right direction. They got a lot of young pieces. They just need to learn how to win.
Yeah, and in fact, the breaking news that just came out a little over an hour is that LaMelo Ball has announced that to the team that he's, open to be traded.
Mm.
And, for me, for the past 2 years, once we got Brandon Miller and we got a chance to see what Brandon Miller can do, I already thought Melo was potentially tradable. Melo is a fantastic talent. He's a, showman with his skills. But when you come down to the fundamentals, if you need to make a stop to put pressure on the ball without fouling, can he do that? I've seen him do it more this year, but he still has a tendency to reach, get those quick fouls, get a little impatient in the offense. But is he a super talent that can put up 30 points, 10 assists easily every night? Yes. But I think while the stock is high, consider it. I think, I look at, can you get a superstar? I don't know. You may have to get another disgruntled superstar, definitely a first round pick. But this season, I think, with Khan Knippel, he is performing way better than I thought. Do I still think he's a role player? Yes, but he's a role player that's performing so well that you have to look at him as at least a star. He's not a superstar, but he's a star. And when you have role players that are excelling at their role, then you give yourself the best opportunity to succeed. Our offense is up. As far as the Hornets team, we're scoring. We're, I think 11th or 12th in the league in scoring, but we're 24th in defense. So we're giving up we're giving up way more points. I mean, that loss against Indiana was very telling for me, that, okay, yeah, we're still not able to close out games. We'll look good maybe for a half, sometimes even for 3 quarters. We look like the better team with our scoring, but we'll lose the third quarter, the fourth quarter. We're not closing out games. And that is what championship teams or winning teams know how to do. Golden State was always known for, first half was almost fill it out. You might be up by 20 points on Golden State. Third quarter, they turn around, they're up by 6 coming into the fourth quarter. And it's like, what happened? They locked in, made the adjustments, and excel. We're not there yet. So I understand Melo's been in the league 6 years now. So he's a vet. And, hopefully if they get, there's some interest. And, I would be more than open to supporting that trade.
Yeah, I like Con Canoopel. I think that was a good pick for them. He's starting to come on. I think he's not a number one, but I think he could be a solid number two guy. Him,
Yeah.
Brandon Miller. You got Miles Bridges, LaMelo. I mean, I like LaMelo, but like I said, the injuries. Sometimes he disappears late in games. He can be a liability. You see them take him out the game late in the fourth quarter, like they did last week against Milwaukee. So if he wants to be traded, I mean, maybe you can get a first round pick, maybe get a veteran guy for him. I wouldn't have a problem with that. The team is lacking defense. Whenever the game is close or they have a lead, they can't protect the lead. Or teams are just coming back in the second half, fourth quarter, and just kind of blowing them out the water. So they got to be able to play some defense at some point. Charles Lee, the head coach, came from Boston. Boston plays defense. That's how they won a championship. It wasn't just offense and shooting threes.
Right.
So if they can get that defense together, they'll be improved. I do like the perimeter shooting. I like the 3-point shooting that I've seen so far this year. That's improved. I like the depth they have coming off the bench with some of the younger guys. So I like what I see overall, but again, got to play better defense, and you got to learn how to win and close out some of these games.
I agree. And what I liked, just as you said with the Panthers, I love how our rookies are contributing. Same here with the Hornets. Sion, like I was like, okay, we get another Duke guy, and especially as a Carolina fan, that I'm like, really, are we just gonna load up on Duke? But he came in with a body ready for the NBA, and he shows it, right? When he goes up for a layup and they try to push him off the block, he's standing his ground and also defending at a very good clip. They're young, right? As you alluded to, but they're learning their roles. And so I like that. Hopefully, like I said, what will be very telling is, will the league, now that this interest has been put out in the media today, will they show an interest? What calls will be made for the interest? Because I'm sure there's going to be some teams that will at least vet it out. Will they look now, well before the trade deadline? Will they wait till closer? Or will there be no interest and we're dragging this into the off season? I think that's going to be what we're looking at, because will we have a disgruntled superstar in Melo? And what does that look like? Will he get benched again like he did last year? We'll see. I'm also concerned about Miles Bridges. That's another player that we've had for a while. I know, he had some trouble off the court. And so when the Hornets were still interested in keeping him, Keeping his head down, he's been grinding. But if Melo goes, will he be the next person? I like the other pieces that we have to where, even for him, even though he's been performing very well, if he's happy, then great. I wouldn't say necessarily immediately shop him, but if it starts to be rumbles, I think those are two players that are tradable. And that, like I said, for both of those players, actually, I've been an advocate for being open to trading them for the past 2 years. So I'm almost like, finally, if the reports are true, of course.
Yeah, I definitely think there's going to be interest. He's still young, LaMelo. Um, he's a scorer. I think a playoff caliber team looking for that extra piece. I definitely think it's now. What are the Hornets going to ask for? That's going to be the key. What they want in
Right.
return. But I definitely think there'll be some interest there. Um, I like the new front office, some of the moves they've made already. So I think they'll,
Yeah.
if they do make a trade, I think it'll be beneficial to the team long term. But I think LaMelo, I think you've probably gotten the most out of him that you're going to get at this point.
Yeah.
So maybe time to move on. He's ready to move on. They've got other pieces now. So you can build around Brandon Miller, Con Canoople, some of these other younger guys. I still think, you know, if this team can get into that play-in, that would be a successful season. If you can get the eighth seed, who knows what could happen. I mean, they're probably not getting out of the first round anyway. But if you can get a play in and maybe get an eighth seed, I mean, I think that's a successful season um, as far as reasonable expectations for this year, and then you try to build off of that. But it's going to be very interesting, as we get closer to the trade deadline. If they move LaMelo, what they get in return. I know everybody's going to be looking at that closely. Um, just throwing it out there. I don't think it'll happen. I know, people have talked about Zion might not be happy in New Orleans. I don't know if they would be willing to make that trade. I know he has a huge contract. I know he went to Duke, so a lot of Duke fans will be happy, but don't know if that would happen. I know we talked about Ja Morant. I don't know. With his contract, he's had a lot of off the court issues. But South Carolina, that a lot of fans, would draw a lot of fans uh, to the arena to see him play. I don't know if they could pull that off, but there's a couple names out there, that I'm sure a
Right.
lot of the fan base would love to see here in Charlotte.
From both of those, I would say Ja Morant. Zion, trading for him is almost like trading for Anthony Davidson. Anthony AD is a good player on paper, but he's so injury prone that he'll stay a good player on paper. That's what Zion is at this point. He's a good player on paper.
Hmm.
And so, with all of that, even though John Morant still has some maturity issues, would it be okay with the team that's currently with the record that they have not winning and rebuilding? That would be potentially some risk. So with that risk of really two slightly immature players, that could be something that's open, especially if John Morant is not happy, but he's also in a slightly better winning situation in Memphis than he would be here in Charlotte. So that's something to consider. But yeah, I would take John Morant all day if those are the two options.
Absolutely. I mean, he would bring a lot of excitement here to Charlotte. I mean, despite all the off court and the injuries, I mean, he can ball. He can flat out
Yeah.
ball. And when he's on, he's one of the top, you know, 10 players in the league, easily talent wise. So I mean, that would be nice to see.
I agree.
Right.
Yeah, and so like I think playing would be a shock for me at this point, from what
Mm.
I'm seeing. I've already kind of tapered my expectations. Is that, hey, can we at least on paper look like we're in ninth place, or excuse me, 11th place, and we just missed that play-in? But if we slip it even into the play-in, whether we make it out of the play-in, make it out of the play-in rounds, to make it in would be a success, because that means we would have to put together some strings of victories. And we still have some tough teams on the schedule on this NBA season. And if we're able to string some things together, I mean, hey, fantastic. I mean, the team came together. It's still a long season, right? But I have started setting some fair expectations so I don't have to pull my hair out as I'm watching the games.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. And switching over to your Tar Heels, off to a pretty good start. ACC, top heavy. You got Duke, you got Louisville, so it's going to be, it's going to be a tight race. But how you feeling about your Tar Heels starting out this season?
I like the makeup of the team, the size. We have shooting. We actually have some depth for a change. Uh, and you know what? I really like what happened. So after they won against Navy, there were reports that came out that there was a player-only meeting had. So that's already showing because they were a little lackadaisical. Yeah, they won, but could they have executed a little better in some certain areas? Maybe have a little bit more enthusiasm? Yes. So the fact that they called this player only meeting after a victory early in the
Mhm.
season, very promising. Caleb is going to be a beast. He's put high expectations on himself as a freshman. He wants to be in the rafters. When you put that expectation out there, especially publicly, you got to step into that. I like what he's doing, so far with his scoring, but he's being very selective still. We got a center who can shoot a three as a 7-footer, but still protect the rim. But also even with the mid range, keep it the flow of the offense. I'm really ecstatic about what the Tar Heels potentially have because Hubert Davis teams, since he's been our coach, start the season usually slow. We
Hmm.
start out slow. You almost start having some doubts, and then they get hot once the ACC season kicks in and towards the end of the season. So we're able to string together these victories now, especially like we did against Kansas, which was a big victory, and continue that. And then if we're still able to develop like Hubert Davis teams normally do, then easily we should be looking at a Final Four, maybe even Elite Eight type team, because I think we have the talent to get there.
Yeah, I think this team right now, I think the projection is at least Elite Eight, and I could see that. You definitely have more size than they've had in recent years and more better shooting.
Yeah.
So you got the size, you got the shooting. It's probably one of the better teams Hubert Davis has had in recent years. Can he put it together during tournament time? 'Cause he's got some criticism how he uses his rotations and things like that. So can he put it together? And it also depends on matchups, who they match up against once
Right.
they get to the tournament. But as far as ACC, when they play Duke, that's going to be a good test. Louisville is going to be a good test. So we'll see where they stack up against those teams. But I agree. I think this team has the potential to go deep in the tournament, possibly, at least Elite Eight. I'm looking at Elite Eight. If things break their way, possibly Final Four. We'll see.
Yeah, it's a good time to be a Tar Heel fan for a change because I think some of the things I've been saying since Hubert Davis took over, and in his recruitment, I've been saying that our two programs between Duke and Carolina switch places. That Carolina used to have all the not quite one and dones, but the top talent that went into the league, and Duke had the role players. Duke players could get drafted, but you knew they were going to be role players that might be fringe NBA players. We changed, so now Duke is getting the, top tier, top NBA talent, while Carolina's getting fringe NBA players that are role players. They're finding ways to still win some games, but we've been struggling. So the fact that not only do we have some talent that potentially could play at an NBA level. We'll see how the season develops, right? But you can see the potential, and then them coming in together. I like what we're doing, and it's a good time. I'm going to look forward to the Carolina Duke games. I know that can go either way. Also, I think I went and saw Carolina play last year against Florida. Oh, yeah, I mean, they lost a heartbreaker against a tough team. But they broke my heart almost the entire until like the last 5 minutes. They made a run. Before that, I thought it was going to be a blowout. And so I think I got to look at the schedule to see if they come to Charlotte again. Because if they do, I'm going to have to check them out.
Right. This is for on college basketball, man. I got to give a shout out to the Johnson C. Smith winning the CIAA championship last weekend, man. That's very big. I know we got a lot of Johnson C. Smith alumni that we both know, and HBCU. You know how we feel about those, especially here in North Carolina. Shout out to them, man. That's a big accomplishment.
Congratulations. Definitely. Big shout out. Think it's been, I know, over 50,
Hmm.
possibly 70. It's been a long time. So congratulations for that football championship. Yes. What job well done.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And going into going into this weekend, I know there's some big NFL games coming up. Shador Sanders, is getting a start this week. You know, how do you feel about that? I think the way he's been treated, I don't agree with.
Right.
I think the coach is somewhat tried to railroad him a little bit, but I'm glad he's getting that opportunity. I know the Browns aren't very good, but I think a lot of people are going to be tuning into that game to see how he does, whether you like him or you don't like him. You're either going to watch to see him succeed or you're watching to see him fail. But it's going to be a highly anticipated, must-see game just because he's going to be out there on the field. So, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, this is the first time he's getting reps with the first team, which is crazy that, when you knew he was the backup, that I get that he's not getting a lot of it. Dylan should have been getting the majority, but some. So, Cam Newton I don't always agree with all his takes, but he was spot on with, they're not used to his cadence, the look, anything when he came in, he was not prepared. But I love the fact of how hard he took it, right? Some people didn't like it. No, he expected better of himself. But what was so telling was how the defense responded, right? Because, the defense was having a monster game. And when they asked the players, like, well, what happens? They were like, look, he's a young player. He tried to put it all on his shoulders. And we said, no, it's a team game. They easily could have threw him under the bus. Like, you've been waiting on this and you show up and you failed. That lets me know that the team even sees something that maybe even the coaches don't see. That support there is going to be phenomenal. I'm going to be looking to see what he does. Something tells me he's going to perform a little better than he did, but also Baltimore's defense is a little tricky. Sometimes we say, yeah, their defense is not good, but they've been playing better. They've been improved. To come in, really unprepared, you didn't have any first team reps and come in against a defense that was playing hot and at a high level, that was tough. He'll be better prepared, and I think he performs better. I know I'll be watching.
Yeah, and at this point, you got to see what you have in him because you
Yep.
have what 6, 7 games left. See what you have because you're probably going to get a top 5 pick anyway. They have 2 first-round picks next year, I believe. If he's not the guy, then you're probably going to take a quarterback. But you at least owe it to the organization, to the team, fan base. Hey, is this our guy? Do we need to find somebody else? And he's getting a chance to play with the number ones, so that's huge. And it helps the fact that they're going against the Raiders, who aren't very good. I mean, they just got blown
Exactly.
out by the Cowboys the other night. I mean, they looked awful. So you're not going against a very good team. So you have a
Nope.
chance to really go out there and shine and show what you can do. So I'm looking forward to watching them play. I hope he does well. I'm rooting for him. I'm not, of course, the Browns being a divisional rival, not a fan of the Browns, but I do like Shador. I'm a big Dion fan, of course. That's my guy, going all the way back to his playing days. So I like to see the kid, have some success, do well. Hopefully, I rather see him somewhere else. I don't think Cleveland is the right destination for him.
Right.
Just
Right.
that organization is just a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
But you hope he succeeds and gets an opportunity, and that's all you can ask for at this point.
I agree. That's all you can really ask for. All I know is I did pick up Cleveland on my fantasy football in both leagues, Cleveland's defense. So I need Miles Garrett to go ahead and put up another 5 sacks, have a couple of interceptions, and then in essence give Shador a chance to have some success. So yes, I'm hoping, but I need some victories of my fantasy football team. I've been hurting a little bit this year, so I'm on the cusp of the playoffs. So it'd be nice to string some victories together.
Yes, and I actually have the Browns defense this week, so I hope they do well as well. Before we get out of here, Daryl, just tell the people out there that might be watching about your organization. We got a lot of good things going on in here in the community in Charlotte.
Appreciate it. Yeah. So I am the executive director of Joshua's Work. We are a workforce development nonprofit organization. We work with youth and young adults, 15 to 24 years of age. We help them with defining their career path. Right. There's always the question of what do you want to be when you grow up and what does that look like? We help answer that question and then help them pursue it. Right. And then make those connections. And so, yeah, we're excited. We had 2 cohorts graduate this year, our first year of having a cohort. We're excited about what's coming up for 2026. So please be on the lookout. Visit our website at Joshua's Work, and that's work. It's spelled WERK.org. And either donate or volunteer. We would love to have you involved in what we're doing in the community here in Charlotte.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, you want to subscribe to a Fans View podcast, get more of this great sports talk. Click on the link below. We have some future episodes coming up, and of course, we'll have Daryl Israel back on, talk some more Charlotte sports. Daryl, I want you to thank you for joining me this week, man. It was fun. Had a lot to talk about, to get into. See how these games turn out this weekend, next week, and then we'll get back together and rehash, talk some more sports, Charlotte sports.
So anytime. Thank you for having me.
All right, take care, and all the people out there watching, thank you for tuning in. See ya.